Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Need to Nerd. I'm your host, Spencer, and I'm joined by my co-host, Wes Singleton.
Oh, no description. I get to describe myself.
You can describe yourself.
Man of the year.
Man of the year. It's
that
weird.
year being the year I was born.
Oh, all right. You were
1995.
You were born this year? Oh, 1995. Got it. All right. Well, now people know what year you were born. Today we are talking about Mandalorian Season 2 West. I'm pretty excited to talk about it. I've gotten to rewatch it since our attempted recording. We've actually already tried to record this episode once. I actually got to rewatch most of it since then, and I'm excited to talk about it this week. But before we get too far in, I just want to mention that our Discord is blown up because people are joining our Magic tournament. And if you want to join the Magic tournament, there still is some days left. If you want to talk about Star Wars, if you want to talk about Magic, RPGs, video games, anime, stuff like that, don't forget to check out the Discord. And also, if you want to support the show directly, head on over to patreon.com/easygamemedia. It is greatly appreciated. With that being said, talk about our nerd fact of the day. Wes, did you see the tweet today?
I did not.
So, Pokemon tweeted, "Let's go Sinnoh!" Exclamation point. And said 4 days till Pokemon Day, whatever. And they posted a picture of Turtwig and Chimchar and it's not Piplup. It's Piplup.
It is Piplup.
It's Piplup. And people had some reactions. A lot of people are like, "It's too early for a new Pokemon game," was a pretty common reaction, which I thought was really weird. So I have a fun fact for you. If there is not a main Pokemon title, and if we're including Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee in those main titles, as main title or remakes, it would be the only 2-year gap between title releases ever for Pokemon.
Is that counting like Pokemon Crystal as a separate event than Gold and Silver?
That is
because I think it has to.
That is a great question. So I can rattle these off. Red and green were in 96, and then blue was in 96 also. 98 had yellow, 99 had gold and silver, 2000 had crystal, then you skip a year, ruby and sapphire 2002, skip a year, red, leaf, green, and fire red and emerald all came out in 2004, skip a year, diamond pearl, skip a year.
Isn't skip a year by definition 2 years?
No.
Well, because
the only years without them
would be...
The only years without a game are 97, 01, 03, 05, 07, 11, and 15.
Pokemon Sword came out in 2019?
Yep.
Oh. Weird.
2020 is a weird year, man. Like, people just forget that 2020 exists when they, like, the number. I was actually in a job interview the other day, and we were talking, and I was like, yeah, last year I did this thing. And they're like, you did that last year? And I was like, no, I did not. I did that in 2019. But yeah, it would be the first time ever.
Okay.
I think we're getting some, at least a Sinnoh remake. But yeah, fun fact, there's never been a 2-year gap of Pokemon games to be released.
Got it. I'd fight with you on the semantics, but it's not worth anybody's time.
It's definitely not, especially since, I could just edit it out.
Yep.
Let's move on to our main topic, though. I had to drop in a little bit of Pokemon there for West. Reviewing Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Mandalorian Season 2 is the second installment of the American web television series, The Mandalorian. It premiered on Disney Plus on October 30th, 2020. And man, did we need it, man. Man, did we need it. Do you love Baby Yoda? Do you love Boba Fett? Do you love Darth Vader killing younglings?
Specifically, yes.
Well, West, Mandalorian offers 2 of these 3 things. Watch it and find out which ones.
I'm so disappointed
Why?
because it's not Darth Vader killing younglings.
Wow,
Spoilers, by the way.
spoilers! Yeah.
Well, we already know when that happens, so
uh, but yeah, I think that this is maybe the most anticipated piece of Star Wars media since like probably The Force Awakens. Like I don't know that like people were obviously excited for season 1 of The Mandalorian, but it wasn't like to the level of the the that movie. But
do you think that
people were
hype
desperate
for
for this.
Spencer was hype for episode 2 of The Mandalorian hype more like was there more hype for episode 2 than there was for episode 1?
Do you mean season 2?
Like once people knew what they were getting, do you think they really bought in? Is that you
Oh,
think like people just didn't know what they were getting to start?
I don't know. I don't know if it's hard to say. I think that with these episodes coming out weekly, the hype kind of grew as the show came on. People were like, oh, is it good? Should I watch it? Because they got to dedicate time, right? And by the time that season 1 was
Yeah.
over, people were like, yes, you should watch it. So then this season comes along, and people are like, yeah, I'm stoked. And we obviously knew some stuff going in about the what happened at the end of last season. So, but let's go into our first thoughts and kind of be a little bit spoiler free. Wes, what were your first thoughts watching season 2? Did you finish it with your dad, by the way? I don't remember.
I did.
Nice.
I did that. I did that, yeah, last weekend, or yeah, 2 weekends ago. It was great. But my first thoughts were that the Mandalorian he's a full-on dad now. He's just adjusted to that life. He's got dad vibes coming off everywhere he goes. And that I just thought it was incredible how every character that was I don't know, most new characters to the Mandalorian this season were returning characters from other Star Wars things, and that nearly every living character that had a name in season 1 came back at one time or another in season 2.
And some that didn't.
What?
Some that didn't have a name. Well, we'll get into
Yeah.
that later.
Oh,
but
fair. Yeah, good point.
yeah, I think that dad vibes definitely came through, and the cameos were great. I really enjoyed those as well. My first impression of this season is the payoff was great. We got to see honestly so much. I think one of the things that Filoni and Favreau do a really good job of is giving you enough of what you want, but also giving you something to think about, something different, and not always what you expect. I think that they are able to, we talked about this on the show before, but a lot of Star Wars fans have trouble with Star Wars. Like they have trouble with new pieces of Star Wars content. And we said it before that I just want to love Star Wars. I want to love the thing that's in front of me, and I think these guys make it easy to do that because you have to deal with a little bit less of the toxicity of the Star Wars fandom when these guys are involved. But
yeah, they have a very specific way in which they're pushing Star Wars to grow and find new fertile ground in which they can tell stories in the Star Wars universe. But they always do it in a way that keeps the core of what Star Wars is. They're really good at holding to the vision.
Yeah, and I think that one of the ways to think about it is, there's a podcast that I listen to that I'll always recommend, even though if you want to get into, the type of content that we're producing, there's another podcast called Nerd On. They do a show, called The Mandalorian, by the way. It's like the unofficial official companion show to this show. It's really good. You should check it out. But in their regular show, they have this belief that every episode is somebody's first episode of this show. And I think that Star Wars fans often forget that any piece of Star Wars content can be somebody's first piece of Star Wars content. And I think that the thing that Dave and John do a really good job of is remembering that and being true to Star Wars and allowing people to consume. Like, if somebody just sat down and watched episode 1 of The Mandalorian without watching any other Star Wars movie, I think they would enjoy themselves. And I think that this season, I think that there's a lot of episodes that if all you've watched in Star Wars is The Mandalorian, you will still enjoy this season. Like, there's not a ton of stuff to get. There's some stuff, but I think that they give you enough context, and I think they did a great job with it.
Yeah, and I think that, like, you know, the questions you might have from watching Mandalorian in totally in the dark to the rest of Star Wars are ones that would push you to go seek out more Star Wars. Like, they're not like, wow, I feel like I got thrown into the deep end. It's like, so there's a whole galaxy?
Yeah.
Spaceships? Huh.
So if you haven't watched season 2 yet, I think it's great. You should watch it, and we're gonna start talking spoilers. So, also it's been out for a while. So,
go watch it.
Let's go to overall impressions. This is a high level look at how much we love what we're reviewing. And I loved this season. It doesn't come without things that I would change. But I think that this happens to me a lot in all kinds of media. It's not necessarily Star Wars. Star Wars, it's easy to avoid because, like, the internet, every time something new Star Wars comes up, the internet is just like, it sucks, it's worse than Empire, blah blah blah. And I'm like, ah, sick. I'm gonna go enjoy this thing and not have expectations that it's gonna be as good as one of the best movies ever made, and I'll probably really enjoy it because of that. But I think that the first time that I watched this season, I did myself a disservice by having a little bit of expectations about a few things, including Ahsoka. And honestly, after I rewatched it, I really just enjoyed the ride and enjoyed the story that was being told of this man trying to take care of this kid in a task that he's been tasked with, while also discovering for himself that maybe the world isn't what he thought it was. And I think that that's an underlying point of this season that is not talked about enough. And I think it's probably the best part of this season in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So,
some overall impressions for me are, like, I think that, like, one of the things that gives The Mandalorian its strength is its decentralization of the process. Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni are definitely, like, the keepers of the script. They're the ones who are writing all of this, but, like, they then handed that vision off, and it is, like, if you are just learning that there are different directors for every episode, basically, like, and that their goal is to make every single one of these episodes a 45-minute excellent film, not just a episode of a TV show, then surprise, that's what's happening here. And that's one of the pieces of the astoundingly high qualities, because there are, whether it's Dave Filoni coming back for another episode after, hundreds of Star Wars television episodes, or Taika Waititi on his first, like, they're giving it everything they've got for these episodes, because they are trying to really show off what are my skills as a director, what is my vision, what is what I bring to the Star Wars universe, and it really comes through every second of these episodes. I really love the Mandalorian cultural affairs coming to a fore. I love that the Mandalorians are an interesting plot line through all of the Star Wars TV shows, and that it gets continued here and really builds up to this, like, meeting point where you have Boba Fett, who I love him coming back and being a protagonist on the good guys team for the first time in his career. I really enjoy that. And I love that the triangle interactions between the Mandalorian and what he thinks a Mandalorian is, the Mandalorians from Mandalore, and Boba Fett, who is...
You're going into favorite storylines. Going into favorite storylines before we even get there, West.
I mean, it's an overall impression of the show is that Mandalorian's important here. It's an overall name of the show.
Sure.
Mandalorians are here, but totally, it's a good storyline.
Yeah. I want to talk about favorite characters. I'm going to start. My character does not have a name. And my favorite character this season probably is a pretty big surprise to me. Because the character doesn't have, like, a ton of depth, but I just think the acting is so good. And I don't know. I just loved. And he's a little bit of a plot device, but the Mythrol. I just.
Who is that?
Who is that?
For the people who don't just know names
Yes.
of species in Star Wars?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in season 1 of The Mandalorian, in the very first scene, you hear the spurs, and there is this little fish-looking guy who's getting picked on, and the Mando goes and grabs him, you know, in the classic line, you know, I can either bring you in warm or cold. I can't remember exactly how he says it, but yeah, that's that little blue fish guy is the Mythrol, and that is just the name of his species. He doesn't have a name in the show. But I'm trying to pull up. If I don't pull up his actor's name, I'm going to be really upset. Who is this person? I've never even heard of them. Maybe I have. But the character is played by Gerardo Sanz. If I'm saying this name wrong, I'm so sorry. I just think he absolutely crushed it. I think that a lot of people they want so much backstory and so much. I think that you see immediate character growth from this person, and they're willing to pay off their debts. They're not. I mean, it'd be so easy for this guy to just run away again at this point in his life, especially like in this episode, right? Like he has ample opportunity to just like leave them there, drive away, get on a flight and leave. But I think that there's character growth there, and I also think that he helps. He pushes the story forward. Is funny. I don't know. I really enjoyed his character, and I don't need much more than that. Like, I think he did the perfect amount for what was asked of him, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, he's actually very impressive. Like the things he notices, because he's a bit of like a nerd, like actually get them out of some serious scrambles in that episode.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of people are like, well, that's bad writing and whatever. It's like, no, it's not. Like, just let things be the way they are. But I really enjoyed his performance in this season specifically, and in that episode.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think that for me this season, like, just The Mandalorian is just so cool in every scene of the season, but also like cool in like the willing to be vulnerable ways. Cool in the I actually know my limits. I know when I need to ask for help. It's just really impressive how much The Mandalorian grows in this season. I think that like he's a very static character from the moment he takes the child to like nearly the very end of season 1. He's just is the same character the whole time. Like he obviously has this big change when he chooses to protect the child as opposed to be the bounty hunter, but then he kind of stays static until he comes to accept the droid at the very end of the season. But in this season, I think it's clear that he's grown immensely from the first bit, right? From when he's just playing, like doing very dad things just right out of the get-go. But like, I think that he has really memorable moments of growth and struggle all season long. And like, he just changes other people, which I think is a really important thing for a TV character to have as well during the season. There are so many characters who are just like tempered by his presence, who are either bolstered because they need to pick up, or they are brought down, or they are just given a more real like understanding of context in life. Like I think that the moment when like they're trying to convince like after Grogu is taken by the Dark Troopers, and every time the Mandalorian asks for help, and people are like, "Yeah, why am I going to help you?" Someone else is like, "The child was taken," and they're like, "Oh, this is as serious as it gets. We're in." Like,
Yeah.
and like you don't get to that point where you go from being this like soulless like person who just does their job, and that job is hurting people, to like everyone willing to risk their lives to protect your biggest interest without making some serious growth and doing some seriously cool things along the way. And we really see it in this season.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that this season definitely has the most growth for him, and you really get to witness him. I mean, we'll actually probably talk about this.
Obviously, the most
Well, let's just actually
clear example
go
of
ahead.
him growing as a character is when, in order to, you know, protect what his principles are, which is I will do anything to protect this child, right? That's his leading value at that point, when he's willing to take off his helmet several
Yeah,
times during the Believer mission, like at different stages for different things. Like he really chooses to set aside values that are like more like cultural guidelines in favor of things that actually help him achieve what he wants, when he goes from starts as such a rigid rule following character.
let's talk about favorite storylines, and I think that in the future we could probably change this to favorite storyline slash moments for what it's worth, just because I think it would fit the kind of the point. I'm actually gonna switch this up, and I'm gonna go first on this because you kind of
Mm-hmm.
mentioned mine a little bit, but I want to dive deeper into it. Which my favorite storyline is just you kind of mentioned that triangle of the different sects of these Mandalorians in this season, right? You've got Boba Fett, who views the armor of his father as like his inheritance and is important to him. And you've got this group of Mandalorians that are like, "You're a clone. You're not a real Mandalorian." This guy's a Mandalorian because he's a foundling, but also you're a weirdo, like part of a weird religious sect. And then you got Mando who's like, "You guys are weird. Why are you all taking off your helmets? Like, what's going on?" And I think that it is you learn a lot, right? Like you learn that this group that Mando is a part of is built from the Death Watch. You learn that uh, the differences in you don't learn a lot about what has happened to Bo-Katan after she has the dark saber on Mandalore, but obviously things you learn that stuff has hit the fan, you know, and you learn about what has been happening to Boba since he was in the Sarlacc pit. There's a lot of you kind of talked about like this show's about Mandalorians, but I also think that is the future of this show. When we get to the end, the child's gone, right? Like the child's off learning the ways of the Force from Luke Skywalker. Huge shout out to that moment. It was obviously amazing uh, and we'll probably get into that in Lovitz a little bit, but I think that the most likely direction for this show is for Mando to go to Mandalore and try and take it back. Uh, Maybe that's not what happens. I don't know, but it would be cool to see.
Absolutely.
What are you? What's your favorite storyline or favorite moment? Or
I think that it just like, clicked for me that in this season, the Mandalorian, like Din Djarin, he's a unifier. Like he brings like groups of people who would not get along and have not been getting along, and makes them fall in lockstep in order to achieve a goal. I think the best example is when he gets the townsfolk in on that small town on Tatooine and the Sand People to work together. Um, being the liaison between them. But I think he grows to the point of, breaking up the fight that inevitably occurred between one of the Mandalorian-born Mandalorians and Boba Fett when they meet, right? Like, I think that
Such a cool moment. That
Oh,
jetpack use in the
30 seconds of fighting is just so good.
Yeah, it was really good. I agree. I think he brings people together, and you're right. That first episode, the Marshal really encapsulates it, right? Like, it's like this Krayt Dragon's bugging you guys. It's bugged the Sand People for years. Like, let's work together to do this. Also, shout out for bringing Krayt Dragons into the
I understand
live action, but it's cool.
They don't seem physically similar to the video game Krayt Dragons, but it's a cool thing to hold over.
I think it's just bigger. Like, it's just a way bigger Krayt Dragon. And also, I think that there's like budgetary restrictions, right? Like, I think that
you have your model of the head.
Yeah, exactly. It's a TV show, right? Like, we got to remember that it's a TV show, and I don't know what the cost of Smaug is in The Hobbit, but I'm sure it's expensive, right? Like, I'm sure the production cost on that is high, and this is one episode of a TV show that.
And this does speak so well to The Mandalorian, right? Which is that its production value is so high for a TV show that we constantly forget that it is not cinema. That is not that each episode feels like a movie, really feels like it encapsulates that story, really like has that completion to it, even though they're all strung together. But it totally is just a TV show, and it speaks so highly of it.
And to wrap up the point on the Krayt Dragon, like, we still got to see the pearl, and that's awesome. That was a really big pearl too, so it's not fitting. That's not fitting as an extra crystal in your light, or an extra piece to your lightsaber. Okay, let's move on to could be betters. Mine's kind of small and a little bit nitpicky. It still bugged me rewatching it, but I'm kind of over it. I was really confused by the character, the choices of Ahsoka when she met the child. I understand she doesn't want to train a Jedi because she's not a Jedi, but I find it hard to believe that she definitely knows that Luke Skywalker exists, and I feel like she could have pointed him in that direction. And it's possible that she didn't want to, like, she doesn't trust Skywalkers anymore or something. I don't know, but it felt that's my only could be better. It's just like
it's just conjecture to you that she would know of. Like it.
I mean, the whole galaxy has to know of who Luke Skywalker is, right?
Or so we think, right?
Well,
like,
no,
certainly that is the impression that Finn gives us in Force Awakens, right?
Yes.
That's definitely the impression.
That's
but
the
also,
impression.
he's a stormtrooper, right? Like, he's gonna hear about.
But Rey knows who Luke Skywalker is. He's a war hero.
Yeah.
I mean, the Princess or Leia Organa is like the leader of the Senate or whatever they have at this point. It's just hard. It's nitpicky. I know it is, but it's like, it's just weird to me. It's just a little could be better. It bugged me a lot watching the episode the first time. I was like really mad. I was like, but I understand that Ahsoka probably has, a lot of trauma. I don't know. That's my could be better.
It could also just be Ahsoka suspecting that being the likely outcome, and then in classic mystic fashion, just never saying anything because that's just they like the discovery.
That's true. What about you? Any could be betters?
Yeah, I actually want to press down a little bit on the Luke Skywalker issue. You mentioned this last time, right? That you think that there's so much fertile space in the previous canon, the now defunct canon of what Luke Skywalker and his buddies get up to after the fall of the Empire. And when you mentioned it, like, that idea sat with me, like, why aren't we preparing for this? Why aren't we trying to set up a new younger actor Skywalker to do this.
So let's give some context. One of my could be betters when we recorded last time was just I understand that they were doing Mark a solid, but I didn't quite understand why you wouldn't recast, like, you take this as an opportunity to recast Luke Skywalker
And foreshadow
yeah.
that.
And I the thing is that I love The Last Jedi. I think it is independently a fantastic film. I think it's beautiful. I think there's a lot of amazing pieces to it, and I understand that Mark was upset with the direction that Luke was taken. And he's been pretty vocal about being really happy about being given this opportunity in this show. Uh, Luke, when I was a small child, was my one. Just like I went as Halloween as Luke Skywalker. I just loved him. As I got older, I I don't like Luke Skywalker. I think that he, in a lot of ways, is kind of whiny and weird. And I don't know, but I get that for a lot of people, Luke Skywalker is like their hero. Like, he is their hero. There was a really cool TikTok of Darth Vader in Rogue One, going through that hallway alongside Luke Skywalker taking these Dark Troopers down. And they were on top of each other.
I have a question.
Yeah.
About that. Why can't the Darksaber cut whatever the metal is, but a normal lightsaber can?
What are you talking about?
Like the
Dark
Troopers.
Beskar?
Yeah,
they're not.
Aren't the Dark Troopers Beskar?
No,
they're just really hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, did the Darksaber not? Did somebody try to use the Darksaber on them and it didn't work?
No, I just, for some reason in my mind, I wrote them as being Beskar.
No,
for some reason,
I don't
because of their toughness and their bulletproofness.
Got it. No, I don't think so. Anyway,
it also would have tied in like why dealing in Beskar was like something the Empire was doing if they were also preparing these like Beskar troops, like it was a resource they had on hand, but it was still valuable to them.
I think that they're dealing in Beskar because they specifically are seeing
him.
Well, I think that they know that Luke is building, a new Jedi Order. So, to kind of talk about your could be better, I think that it's fine that it didn't happen. I would have loved Luke to be recast. Luke gets kind of ridiculous for what it's worth in like the legacy stuff. Like Luke is basically, it's really funny. One of the criticisms, I'll dive a little bit deeper into this, about Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi is his force projection. And people like freaked out that he projected himself through the force from the island, right? And they were like so mad. And it's like, he literally does that in a book where he fights Leia's son and talks to him as a force. Like, what are you talking about? He literally does this in the books.
Yeah, people don't complain when that happens in Marvel movies.
It's just so funny. It's so funny. But I agree. Totally. I think that I would love to see. I don't know. I think that the most interesting thing for Luke is that point, right? Is that building that new Jedi Order and inheriting that. Even though we know it falls apart now, I still want to see that.
Yeah. I also have to say that in the credit of things that I would normally be putting in my could be betters, I feel like Bill Burr as like an actor and as like his character in this show typically would fall into the space of where my could be betters are. And I just don't feel that way. I love Bill Burr's performance in The Believer and like his character's growth in that single episode. And like, it's probably my favorite thing he ever does. It's really cool.
Yeah,
It's that episode in the Siege for you in the season, isn't it?
It is. It's so hard. Bill Burr is really hard for me because he doesn't like Star Wars, and it's really hard for me to separate the fact that he doesn't like I don't know. There's so many people that give their like give anything to be in Star Wars,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
I mean, they did cast pretty perfectly for the character they had in mind, if that's how they wrote the character.
Yeah, we'll get into this
But
during. Let's actually move on to Lovitz, and
yeah,
I'll just go first
yeah,
because it's I Migs shooting that dude in the face is like
right then and there.
is just you're like yeah, I would too. I
Oh
would
yeah,
I would too. And
it has so many callback moments too. Like
uh,
it's so Han's
oh
killing Greedo
absolutely.
too.
The whole thing is just that episode is so good.
Yeah,
Uh and their conversation is great. Like Migs and Mando, just their conversation is great. Him teasing him is great. Mando taking off his helmet, like that episode is so good.
yeah.
Uh, the Tie Fighters, the sniping, the just the whole thing.
Honestly, like they, even though it doesn't stick, that feeling you get for like the first 30 seconds after the TIE fighters are the one who just saves our protagonists
Yeah,
is so like just like processing that is like such a good experience, such a good thing to ask,
yeah.
good
But
question.
I think that Migs in that episode, like just that moment where he's dealing with, like he's facing this general. So for those who don't know, in the first small KOTOR spoilers, the game's 400 years old, so I don't care. But one of the uh, so the story of KOTOR, for what it's worth, the Republic ships that go to the Mandalorian Wars and fight against the Mandalorians join Darth Revan and become the Sith that come back and then fight the Republic to take over. And one of the generals, and like for one, like the second or third most important character in the game, uh, you know, he he slaughtered a bunch of this person, these people in front of the character, and it's like a huge turning point in the game for this character, like to meet this person and deal with him and to confront him. And it really felt like a callback to KOTOR. Um, and he did such a good job. Like Bill Burr did such a good, like that whole thing was so good. So that's my favorite moment. My other one is Luke. I loved watching Luke cut down those Jedi, and loved that line where the like a single X-wing. That was really funny. And then I would say like um, my last couple Lovets were just I really really loved the sound of the Beskar spear versus any lightsaber at any
The
time.
Beskar spear sounds so good.
Like
Like its ring is so pure.
Fun fact, that spear is in the new movies. I don't know if you've noticed, but Captain Phasma holds a spear just like that. I'm pretty sure it's the same one.
Huh. I love the idea of like certain powerful weapons trading hands back between the Empire and the not
I'm
Empire
like
over and over again.
I'm like
It's so cool.
85% sure that it's the same spear. But yeah. Anyway, those are probably my favorite moments. Uh I I we already talked about my favorite episodes. Did you have a favorite episode, by the way, West?
I ooh, that's a good question. I think that it's either like the first episode of the season
Oh, the
or the
Marshal's so
Believer. I think
good.
the Believer
The
is growing on me as well with time.
Yeah, the Marshall. I think those are the Marshall's probably my third favorite episode too. Like I think that's in my top 3.
Yeah.
Are you looking up the spear now?
I did just look at it. Wikipedia has not made that connection explicit, so I don't think that's the case.
Dang it.
It's called a Quicksilver baton.
Well, there you go. It's not the same thing.
Yep. I do have to say though that my absolute love it of this season, the thing that gave me just the most chills, just like was so good, especially the second time when I knew it was coming, right as it was happening. It felt so good. Is when Mando repeats line for line.
Oh yes, I knew you were going to say that, so I didn't put it in my Lovitz.
Yeah,
But go
the
ahead.
speech from Moff Gideon that he gives in season 1, like, you possess something I want. You are not aware of how valuable it is to. Like, it's more valuable to me than you could ever imagine, or whatever. Like, I'm not going to quote it exactly, but it's so good, and it's like the perfect, like, I'm not scared of you, I'm coming to get you announcement ever. It's so good.
When
And
that
it feels so much realer coming from Mando than it did from Moff Gideon the first time,
you said
which I
that,
think is the best part of it. The meaning is so much better.
I think that. So when that happened, my wife was like, "Oh, it's going down!" Like she was like, that hyped up Devonair so much. It's a great moment. I just think that I don't know. I think Moff Gideon's character is I don't know. He's such a good actor. Everything he does, I'm just like
Yeah,
in love
I
with.
mean that character is such a snake, like
Oh, and he
such
does
an eel. You just
it.
hate him. You just want to kill him so bad. Like
Yeah,
it's so
it's true.
good.
Uh, cool. Well, I think. Do you have any more Lovets you want to throw out?
I love the show.
You mentioned
Love Star Wars.
you didn't mention the frog lady like you did last time.
Oh yeah, I mean she's awesome. Don't get me wrong, she's a survivor, and I love the idea of her taking a bath at in the middle of the ice planet because she's
Yeah,
right. She's got
we
the good
should
idea.
we should call out
Baby just
our
ruins that.
well we should I was gonna say we should call out our stance on the supposed genocide, which is
Oh
that
yeah, fair enough.
there's no proof that she's the last of. I mean, you said it best in the other episode when we recorded before, but like,
Yeah, she says she's the last of her line,
right,
of a family line, not the last of a species, is how it comes across in The Mandalorian. Whether or not that could be construed as more, read it how you want to, but I don't believe that um, Baby Yoda is eating eggs of a endangered species, just making a child more likely to be a single child with no relatives.
dude likes frogs.
He likes eating. He's so hungry.
He does. Also,
He's so hungry.
I have one more love it because I saw this on I don't remember if it was TikTok or Twitter, but it was the lightsaber that Grogu would build. Also, I love the name Grogu, by the way. It
It's grown on
definitely
me.
has grown on me.
What?
But the pommel of the lightsaber is the ball from the ship that he likes to play with, and I just was like, this is the coolest thing.
Actually, I'm sort of mad that Mando doesn't give it to him when he hands him off to Luke.
Well, they're gonna see each other again.
I hope, but
he
picks it up when the Razor Crest.
He's gonna give him Beskar for his lightsaber. He's gonna give him that for the pommel. It's gonna be great.
The Beskar hilt, so you can actually have a hilt on your lightsaber for the first time ever.
Yeah. Well, all lightsabers have
hilts.
Huh? All lightsabers have hilts.
No.
What are you talking about?
The hilt is the crossbar. Sorry, crossbar.
You're talking about cross guards?
Yeah, cross guards.
Because Kylo Ren has one of those.
I know, but and his sucks. It's really bad. It doesn't work.
It's true. If it was made of Beskar, it would work better. Oh man, that'd be so. It's like, whoa. Oh, that's so cool. All right, we're gonna get.
When they're
I'm
in
gonna get
the classic,
nerdy.
looking in the screen, at each other, super intensely, lightsabers cross. Like one of them can actually do the proper slide down.
Let's rate this thing. Are we we're not doing 5 out of. We're not doing 5. This is not getting a 5 out of 7, right?
I do not believe so. I do not believe it is literally perfect.
Okay. So we'll rate this on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 being you should avoid this like the plague. We'll probably literally never give anything a 0 on this show. And 5 being a 5 out of 7, a perfect score. With that being said,
keep Mason away from this show, we'll never have a 0. I think that's what we're learning.
Yeah. Wes, how would you rate this season of Mandalorian?
Oh, this is a classic 4. This is like a bread and butter 4 for me in the sense of I loved every moment of it. I
Yeah,
thoroughly enjoyed this show. However, there's a lot of stuff that I don't feel 100% satisfied with. I've got questions. I've got plot holes. I feel like I need to know more. Whereas I think in a 5, I feel like I could never hear anything more about this series and I would be satisfied
yeah.
because it covers everything so well.
It's funny because, like, we did obviously, Legend of Korra and The Good Place, and I think we both gave season 4 of The Good Place a 5, right? And like, I, I I think that there's just a lot to build on here, and that doesn't take anything away from this, but obviously it's not. The Mandalorian is not a complete work yet, right? And once we get to the end of the show, we'll be able to rate the show as a whole.
Yeah.
And I would give this a 4 also. I was really close to a 4.5 in my second watch, but I think that there are episodes that I would give 5s to for what it's worth, where like I'm
Rating
just.
episode by episode would be a whole different
Yeah,
ballgame.
like I mean, I would actually guess the average score of this show is like closer to like a 4.3 or something weird like that. Um,
Yeah. And that's interesting to think about, right? Like why do the 2.5s in the lot drag it down so far in our minds?
I don't think anything gets that low.
Okay, cool. Sweet.
Maybe it does. I don't know. But yeah, I would give this a 4 also. It was really enjoyable. I think you should watch it. It's just legit great. I love Star Wars, West. I hope to do a KOTOR review with you in the future, and so that you can understand all of my weird references. I tried not to spoil something on this episode, by the way. I was like,
I
I
think
don't
I need
want
to
to.
watch a Let's Play. I think that's what I need to do.
Maybe it takes away the decision making, though.
I'd get through it a lot faster, I'll tell you that.
That's fair. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Thank you for listening. If you have a chance to smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're really close to 100 subscribers on YouTube. It means a lot to us, and our numbers are going up across the podcast platform. So thank you. It means a lot. If you get a chance to review us, that's like the best way to help the show right now. I mean, better than dropping a $5 our way on Patreon. If you just actually have the chance to review and share this show with a friend, that's definitely the thing that's going to help us the most.
Yeah, tell a friend. That one's also so powerful. That's the best kind of review you can do.
Yeah. Um, as as we say every week, goodbye. There's a crossguard lightsaber behind me. There's also other lightsabers behind me. But may the force be with you. I feel like my lightsaber would kill your caterpillar.